Gente, eu vou convidar vocês para se sentarem fazendo um enorme favor.
I'll just ask you to take your seats, please.
Não, acho que eles vão parar agora. Gente, eu vou começar, tá? Para a gente não atrasar muito. Então, primeiramente, sejam muito bem-vindos.
So first of all, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm from the Ibema marketing team, and I'll be with you for the duration of this event.
Só um minutinho que estamos com um problema técnico.
Slight technical hitch here, just a second. I'd just like to give you two pieces of advice. We're going to have a Q&A session through the QR code on the screen. You can point your cell phones at it, but there will be the girls going through with the signs. The first speaker needs to leave quickly so we won't have questions Q&A for him, but for the two others, no problem. There will be a cocktail after this event, which we all would like you to attend. So we'd like to always start off by introducing ourselves. We are the third largest and in Brazil and fourth largest in Latin America cardboard producer. We have 12 products in our portfolio and have over 900 collaborators and partners. We went through rebranding at Ibema some years ago, and then we went through and redesigned our purpose, which is packaging the future. To package the future, we work daily on three pillars at Ibema, which never leaves the radar. To believe in the role of courage, to think outside the box, and to work with tact. We are in many other countries, Argentina, Paraguay, Europe, mainly Portugal, Spain, and UK. And we are working a lot with new markets in the Americas. Our main segments are pharma, cosmetics, food, and many others. Last year, Newton spoke to you about the launch of our new commitments with sustainability. Now we're going to talk to you about the status of what we've done on a few of them in the past. In both plants, Ibum in Turvo, we have had 20% consumption reduction, specifically of water consumption in the last few years. And since 2020, 70% of our raw material comes from renewables. And from 2024, over 80% of our consumed energy will be from renewable surface. Continue with the Ibema panorama and what we've done. I will now give the floor to our CEO, Milton Saraiva.
Bom, primeiro eu adorei essa foto aqui, foi quando acho que eu tinha.
First of all, I love this photo, by the way. When I was 10 years younger. Thank you, marketing department, for that. I'd like to congratulate Camila. It's the first time she has come up here and spoken out. Congratulations. She usually cries when she's nervous, but she behaved well today. Went through it well, got through it well. Congratulations. Yeah, I know. That's a bit about us. Ibema's DNA. We have Fabio and Chris, the main shareholders here, up there. People who are brave and take risks. And fortunately, we're grateful for their coming here today. We have been given the easy task of talking about how we see the next 10, 20 years in our business. We've been undergoing a lot of changes in our segment. I'd like to talk about our view regarding what we think will happen down the road. We have an ambassador here, President. Thank you for being here. Wrote a great article. Thanks for being here. He talked about the right side of the sustainability equation. Cardboard is on the right side of the sustainability equation, And you cannot talk about this important factor, which is sustainability in the next few years. I think I speak more as a father and a citizen than the executive in a company. We see a lot from the climate point of view taking place. We have a problem to solve, in summary, as a society, and time is moving more quickly than we thought. We talked about 2030, 2050 commitments, which seem so far away, and it's around the corner now already, if you will. I think these trends we see, in addition to sustainability, population growth is a fact that is happening. We've jumped from 8 billion to 10 billion in 2050, plus urbanization, plus optimized packaging. These are macro trends that, regardless of governments and what's happening in Brazil or Latin America, this will happen. And I've left this piece here down at the bottom where it talks about climate change, which is serious. Resources are more and more scarce. We work with forests, of course, in them and with them. As people say, those who created the land will not, they will not grow their number. We've done our bit. There will be no more land created. We have to use it correctly, plant correctly, etc. And people from are not really that deep into microplastics. This will be more and more evident in our lives because plastic is already in oceans, and that plastic has not started to degrade or decompose yet. What we saw in terms of microplastics now arrived at the ocean 20 years ago, and it was just the beginning of the story. I think we've all here talked about the Pacific plastic islands, if you will. Last week, microplastics were found in clouds at the top of Mount Fuji in Japan. This will start to become more and more evident and appear more, and I think our advantages will become more evident. I see people from Anchor here, from the plastics sector. I'm glad you're here. So we have Anchor plastic spies here, okay? Good to know. And we were talking to everyone before, and we're going to have to join forces with those who work with plastic conversion to create more sustainable solution. And this is a part of a major macro trend. And 5R, right? Also very important. A few years ago, we started prohibiting plastic cups at Ibema. People then realized that paper cups are much more expensive, and we bought each person a mug. Where's the problem there? Is that we have rational use of what does not need to be discarded. Reuse, recycle, this issue of reuse, recycle, this waste management, comprised under waste management. What I like about this message, I was with Sydney at Congraph, and people asked, people said, what will happen to cardboard in 5 years' time? Our future is promising. It's an industry that will continue to grow. It's a good solution vis-a-vis packaging. All indicators we look at, all studies, it's very small down here. I'll read it to you. I have no problem with copying from Suzano, Klabin, Neck, they all say the same thing. We have the future, McKinsey, all studies for packaging in the future will include more cardboard, and good solution. Let's make the most of that. I have written down a few consequences, but the thing is that there will be more packages, more packaging. I won't go into too much detail. You know this more than I do. There will be more paper, and we as the industry, as paper workers and graphic workers, will have to think more about working with our clients. Please do not hear me, people from the plastic sector, is about biodegradability. Biodegradability is very important. Degradability is very important for us and society as a whole, and this will become more and more valuable, important, especially if we talk more and more about microplastics. As Zé Carlos has said, we are on the right side of packaging and that. It's no use saying paper's good, but we must deliver alternatives to our consumers vis-a-vis packages deliver this kind of material. I hope you can read from afar. More and more, there will be global competition. We have McDonald's here today to talk to you. McDonald's is doing it in Europe, they will do it here. The solutions here will go to Europe, but not just paper workers, but people who work in the graphics industry will feel a globalized and more interconnected market. This will happen because it happens in Europe, US, Asia, India, and it will knock at our door as well. Packaging and with regard to paper, we see a lot of things happening. You must have accompanied Smurfit and Asrock. We see Suzano with tissue, Klabin also working their way in. In Brazil, I think the first acquisition in a long time with Aldox. Things are moving and moving quickly. It's up to us to be more and more connected, tuned in. I've talked to a few of you before. The market will not wait. If you waited a bit, you'll be left behind. Another trend that scares me quite a bit is technology. It was in May last year exactly, I had the opportunity to attend a course in California called Singularity University, and people talked about metaverse, many things. We just have 1 week technological immersion. Yes, in 1 week, nobody talked about generative AI. Nobody talked about this. 1 year, 3 months ago, right? 15 months ago. I've just attended a course in Boston. I was at Harvard for 6 weeks. Great experience, and that's all everyone's talking about. I think yesterday I read that out of the 10 most articles read in McKinsey in the last 3 months, 8 are on AI. That is coming for us, if you will. How will this grasp the paper workers? Shop floor. The process will be more and more automatic. Our internal processes will also be touched. I read recently that a machine will never be more than a man, but a man and a machine will be more than any other man. So it's important we have two screens, one AI screen working and the other one for us to answer our emails. So we will have to change, and we started at Ibema, a digital transformation work. We learned that we don't know anything, which is the first step to learn more, right? I'm not going to, you're going to have a presentation later, so I won't go into too much now. The thing is, either we learn this technology or somebody will learn it and leave us behind. So, talking about how we're preparing, we assembled this picture here. 6 months ago, we thought about what we were going to start doing from then on. So what we see in terms of imported materials coming in, pressure, we are going to have to work hard to make a difference. We started working hard at Ibema, and today we only talk about products and services at Ibema. Every meeting with any meeting I have has to do with products or services. If what we're doing will improve products, services, that is the basic condition to do something. If I don't improve services or products, we won't do anything. This has helped us to focus a lot on customers, clients. Let me just. We have listed here battles to be won and overcome. For products and services, we're going to have to work a lot on culture. We cannot for 1 minute forget cash costs. We have to put customers, you, at the core of all our decisions made from here on in or here on out. We must understand and respect the outside competition and learn to coexist with it. I'm sure many of you will ask me, how are you going to, face up to Chinese cardboard and the capacity increase out there? Well, through products and services. We currently have a product which is the top of the line, very well accepted. We have a great portfolio and we are working on it. Here, at the lower part, it looks a bit small, but the use of AI will have to, at any cost, enter our organization. Either we learn to do it, as I said, or we will be left behind. And the base of everything are values. We've always worked talking about, thinking about outside the box, having courage, but I'd also now like to work with respect, integrity, responsibility. We talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, but without respect and integrity, this will not work. In summary, you will hear a lot about products and services. I hope my team, who is with you, talks about that all the time and helps you to bring packaging solutions which the world needs.
And here we got a material from Quota. I don't know if you have heard a lot about that, but the issue regarding value is cost benefit. But I like pretty much this part here on the bottom because we are working at Ibema to have 900 salespeople. And what I'm going to work a lot to have is that all of our collaborators have services in their mindset and help us find solutions. Those that have worked with me at BAMIS at Toga, you know that we had very strong teams to work in customer engagement. And it was nice because we had from people from the plant floor and all the other people, and we wanted to bring this here to us. So I already talked a little bit about what is going on, but Camila's going to be mad at me if I don't finish soon. But since the last year, many things have happened there. And I know that you have suffered, that have struggled to many things, but the system has been implemented, and we have had several advancements. So we increased a lot in the past 12 months. We struggled with lack of knowledge in our fiber expansion project, but now we have people that are working with us to help us. Logistic has also improved a lot. We have a very sound team there. Research and development as well. We continue investing in. And our major challenge this year is to improve our product and have products that are competitive abroad, you know. And I know that for that we need people. So I know there are some people from HR here. And this is the basis that we need to have everybody working in a distinguished product that we can offer. So we invested a lot in 2023. We almost couldn't, you know, deal with everything that we had to do, but the fact is that for us, 15-20 million is a lot of money, and we've been spending and doing the capex and investing in people. So we don't know what we're going to do in the future, but the plants have been very modernized. We went from 100 tons to 160, 165 tons, and we invested a lot in the plant at Embu das Artes. I know it's a node plant, but I invite you all to go there and visit the plant. It's a plant that is here in São Paulo. So, and all the part regarding circular economy is done in this part, in this plant. So we have a collection of chips in the front of the plant, and we believe in this plant, and we believe in recycling. The plant is, as you will see, is almost all target at recycling. Also, about last year, we continue the projects. We see the eucalyptus that have reached 2 meters high. And every time that each of them grow 30 centimeters, we, celebrate, and we are very proud of this project. And to me, it's been a very interesting moment with a client of ours, a distributor in Europe, and said, Newton, Ibema has been it started to be seen in a different way when it started to verticalize its forest part and its fiber approach. So, and now next to the verticalized companies, we want now to change the perception of our clients, especially when we look at a future that is at the same time challenging but very promising as well. So this project is a project that we mentioned last year. We will have 65% of our consumption based on wind power plants. We had a wind power plant in Maranhão. We were the first company to be able to do auto production that was balanced with these power plants. And I have never seen such a long contract, you know. People said, "Oh, I'm going to sign it tomorrow," and then 30 days later, people said, "No, there's something that needs to be postponed." But we managed to do it, and this group was very enchanted because we debugged the problems to them, and I hope that they give us some royalties on that as well. So we have this power plant with 80% of our energy coming from renewable sources, and to Europeans, this has a high value. So after all, every this was a little bit of what we have been doing over the past 12 years, and now I'm going to give the floor to the people from Itaú, who will say that Brazil will never be better than now. Thank you very much, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And the idea here is to discuss the economic scenario as we see it in the vision of Itaú. My name is Fernando Gonçalves. I work in the economic research team at Itaú. And obviously, I'm going to talk a lot about Brazil, but I would like to start talking about the international context, because currently we have some very relevant topics going on. And one is an older one, which is the American inflation that has gone up a lot, so that you can see in this graphic on the left-hand side. But it's dropping now, but it hasn't dropped uh, as much as it needed to be what it used to be, like 3%, you know, which is the target of the American Central Bank. And there is a generalized view that the second phase, the second drop, is going to be more difficult, because the first phase was pretty much connected to the high of commodities and the effects of the pandemic. And now we have an inflation that is much more clearly attached to salaries. So it's a strong economy with a high employment generation. So, but we have already had this month some surprises, and it's an economy that is growing a lot, although they want to deaccelerate this economy so that the salary dynamics goes back to normal. So they're trying to do that by increasing interests. So an interest rate that was zero is now close to 5%. So we have three curves. The orange curve is the one that we forecast at Itaú, and we believe that there will only be a drop of interest rates as of the middle of next year, and it will end up at 4.5, which is a very high increase rate for the United States. But the problem is that the high interest rates there limit the cut of interest rates here in Brazil. So, because when we reach a 7 to 8% in interest rates, the interest rate was zero. So what happens now with this interest rate in the United States? This not justify American investors to come to Brazil, because it's a very volatile market. So, and it's important that if the Brazilian Central Bank tries to increases at the level of 6-7%, the resources will exit Brazil, because the exchange rate will go up, and then the central bank will need to increase interest rates again. So knowing that the central bank does not even cut the interest rate. So here I'm anticipating a little bit the discussion about Brazil, but the two other lines show how the financial market is pricing the interest rates curve and how volatile it was. So in the beginning, by August 31st, it was much more lighter, more similar to our vision at Itaú, a more benign a vision of the market. And another scenario is not only the short interest rate in the United States, but the long interest rate in the United States as well. The financial market over the past week, they performed very badly because the interest rates reached a record because the interest rates were above 4.5% along for the long rate. And here in Brazil, we don't have too much explanation for what's happening, but what happens here on the right-hand side is a perception that the increase rate in the United States is going up, and we are having risk premiums for longer horizons in the United States, will suggest us that the fact that the United States has a lot of indebtedness. So this is a price on the risks, the risk on the prices that the investors need to accept. But we also have geographical problems. And also the United States buying oil in a posture that it looks like that they're preparing for a conflict. And when I talk about that, I'm not talking about an army conflict. I'm talking about a conflict that it's at the moment that the two powerful countries are struggling with less demands of the American treasury. You also have other explanations. Japan, that has an interest rate close to zero, is letting the interest rates increase. So that eliminates a trade that if we eliminate this interest, you don't buy North American bonds. So all this is diminishing the demand for American bonds and pressuring the long-term interest in the United States. And the fear is that these longer interests, more pressured, generates a new crisis, some crisis that hasn't been mapped. So, for example, a new bank going bankrupt. So these are possibilities that we cannot see, but that are in the radar and make the international scenario be very risky at the moment, because we understand that with the American economy surprise, even if we are surprised for the better, it will take time to normalize everything. So in terms of employment generation, we expect a stronger number than it was given by the market, but we still expect a pressure of this longer interest rate. So we see a very turbulent financial market. And another topic that I believe that is very important and that is a little bit out of the radar because of the problems in the financial market in the United States, but which is a topic that impacts us very much, which is the topic about what's happening with the Chinese economy. So all the companies accelerating in August, people were very pessimistic about the Chinese economy, and then there was some improvement, and this has calmed down a little, but after all, we have been concluding that the Chinese economy has been accelerating structurally. It's not something that is for a certain time that is going to be corrected soon. In a way to see that is the retail market in China, because this is a very important market, and that the Chinese market has always used to accelerate economy when they wanted to. So they all invested in retail assets, in real estate assets. And so this is we studied the demand for housing in China, and we looked at that and we observed that it was a demand in drop. So the sales of housing are surpassing the demand. So which means that the stimulus are working out. But what we see here is that the Chinese market is working against a gravitational strength that is bringing this demand down. So the blue line shows the Chinese population starting to diminish. So they are changing demographically. So they are diminishing demographically speaking. So, and here we can also look at the urbanization process that has advanced a lot in China, which is probably the most important part of this graphic, because we don't see the urbanization in China following the same path as the recent years. You know, it's much more advanced. And this is very important for all the commodities. So, and this is very important for the iron ore market, aluminum, which is important for us because we are exporters. So this was a lot backing up the enrichment of Chinese people. They were having a higher GDP, generating a higher demand for protein that generates a higher demand for grains. So I would say that it's not a catastrophic scenario that we are forecasting here. We forecast a growth of 4.9% and 4.1%, 4.9% this year and 4.1% next year. So this is a scenario in which the commodities price, bringing together this scenario of China with structural issues, the United States with high interest having to accelerate the economy, that does not foster a high price for commodities. And of course, commodities is not only with regard to demands. You have to look at the side of the offers. And we are looking at oil in this context. And in this context, with the global economy deaccelerating, the oil prices are going up because OPEC and Russia are diminishing the offer. So but the fundamental point here is that the demand, the general demand for commodities has a downward trend. And this generates a consequence of commodities going up significantly like it did during the pandemic. And here in Brazil, the consequence is that we have, like, for example, here in Brazil, a much more moderate inflation. And I start with the above graphic that shows the diffusion index in Brazil, which is how spread the inflation is. So inflation is becoming less spread because with a more spread inflation, it's hard to fight against it because it feeds itself, you know. So we forecast an inflation for this year of 4.9%, and next year 4.1% is within the bandwidth that the central bank wants, and it justifies cutting interest. And what we see here also is the deflation in the inflation of food and the inflation of industrial goods, very low, 2.2%, which has to do with the drop in the prices of metals. And you have services with labor very pressured in Brazil, still going up a lot. And there is the main villain of the inflation, which is the administrative prices. So, and within these prices, we have gas, you know, and we have an effect of the recomposition of taxes that was conducted by the government. Last year, we cut some taxes like PIS, COFINS, and these generated 0.8% of deflation. So this generates a much more inflationary picture. So inflation will drop a lot this year, 4.9 compared to 5.9 last year. And this is being helped by grains and metals that are bringing the inflation down. And next year, the inflation will continue growing without the problem with the administrative prices. And this justify a discussion of a drop in interest here in Brazil. And we have a discussion because the Selic rate is at 12.75. It will finish the year in 11.5%, and it will end 2024 at 10.29%. So we have an acceleration of the cut in interest. We have two meetings of the committees. The next one is going to be on November 1st. We expect to cut 0.5%, and the next one would accelerate to 0.75% base points. But this is not what the central bank expects. So the report of inflation of last week is reaffirming a drop of 0.5% in the next meetings. But we believe that the services, the inflation of services will come down. We believe that the economic activities will deaccelerate. And most important, what's going to happen with the interests? So the interest for this interest to go up, we cannot cut much more than this 9% with the high interest rates in the United States, because it involves
a slight increase, right? When you increase expenditure, this pressures demand, which pressures inflation. If this fiscal expansion were not happening, you could not do this, right? This is another reason for us to imagine that interest rates next year do not have that much room to fall. Okay, it can go from 13.75 to 9, but it will go lower than it could. 9% is still a bit hazardous or problematic for Brazil. That is what is priced into the market, 9%. If I had made this presentation here with this slide 2 weeks ago, light blue line would be below the orange one. In other words, the market was more optimistic than we are at Itaú that interest rates would be cut more aggressively. What has happened since then is all this turbulence in the international markets. In the US, it's gone up a bit too much than was expected. We think that it's very difficult for Brazilian interest rates to still be below 2 digits. Things are very tumultuous in the world economy. We do think it's 1 digit next year, but not much below 2. The interest rates still hinder the Brazilian economy. We have to say that. I have here another very important theme on this chart in a lot of detail. We definitely won't have time to discuss everything here, but I'd like to discuss a bit. I talked about the fiscal expansion being made. We wanted to increase expenditure a lot, and the government at the same time wants to be fiscally responsible. They're trying to convey the message. They have built a fiscal framework which includes more expenditure, primary results involving, for example, a balanced budget for next year, in other words, 0% deficit. How can you spend a lot and deliver a balanced budget? Revenue will have to go up. So the government since then has had many measures to increase revenue. They had a 2024 budget, which according to government estimates, it will increase 168 billion in revenue. We had reviewed to 90-something billion and now 100 billion, not that much. But the government is not able to deliver the tax collection they want to in order to deliver a balanced budget. It's a 0.6% disappointment, 0.9 instead of 1.5. So the so-called balanced budget the government promises for next year will be a deficit, not 0.6, it will be 0.8. because there are underestimations going on vis-a-vis expenditure, especially social security. So 0.8% deficit next year. It's a fiscal disappointment. It tends to get in the way of exchange rates and other things. But I'd like to very quickly, given time constraints, talk about a few of these measures. So this is the former scenario and the one now, what we thought and what we think now with regard to the latest news and the differences between what the government projects and what we project. First of all, we had measured the CARF, which had a kind of a mismatch in our entity, which solves tax disputes between companies and the government. And it says the governments, after discussing who's right and who isn't, will have the single vote to cast the difference. The government expects to collect about 60 billion reais with this. We put 30 billion in our sums, half in other words, and we are biased towards being less than that. The first point to take note of here is that the CARF is not a Supreme Court. The companies that lose out in the dispute can appeal. They can judicialize the topic, take it to court, etc. Petrobras is in a dispute with the government worth 30 billion reais. Petrobras, of course, has the government as its main shareholder. They will pay the government. Will they? Will they? We think not. They will pay some of it, but not 30 billion. The government seems to believe so, but there is an administrative board, other stakeholders. They will not accept this without taking this to court. So we think there will be something paid from Petrobras, but not 30 billion. There's not much science here. We're trying to map out a reasonable number here, but more and more when we talk about this topic, we tend to see that it will be less than the 30 billion we currently have. Another important topic here, tax on profits and dividends. I'd like to talk to you about this because it's important for all sectors, definitely for you it is. We understand that there will be taxes on dividends. The major doubt is the timing. Will it be this year or next year? Because according to the principle of past actions, if it happens this year, it will only be valid for next year. If next year, only 2025. So it's important to define when it will be. Not very long ago, we thought it was going to be this year, but the runway is shortening. The government has to take into account many measures to increase tax collection. It seems more probable that this will only happen next year. That said, one message we have conveyed at meetings such as this for bank clients is that it's not worth really seeing the other person's cards, as it were. There is this discussion about modulation, in other words, not respecting the antecessor, the past principle, but there will be a modulation that says you can charge tax as from May. So this idea is not so clear that when you approve it one calendar year, it is only valid for next year. There may be a change even with respect to that. So the government, of course, is hungry for revenue. They need to increase expenditure and finance this. And unpopular measures for Congress will have to come out. For example, taxing offshore funds and exclusive funds. There are many of our assets included here. The government wants to tamper with that, not generating that big of amount of revenue, which shows they are hungry for revenue. So it's a race to approve everything, including dividends. We may be wrong. At the 11th hour, at the end of this year, the government may approve a dividends act. So we have to approve a tax rule which takes into account a government that needs revenue and wanting to rush. And then there's a political dispute about when this approval will be, but it will happen. What will be more clear now in the short run is offshore and exclusive fund tax, the discussion should happen this week. When we add all this together, we see this lower, 100, this lower factor, 100 instead of 160 billion. the fixed fiscal structure has been seen as to be approved next year. When the government acknowledges that, this may impact the market. The market has already anticipated much of this. Economists already project that 0.8 we have of deficit is the median value in the research by the central bank. But when they see that they will not be able to deliver that number, I think the Brazil risk will tend to increase a bit, especially with regard to exchange rate. We are cutting interest rates and we will have fiscal disappointments. I join these two to say that the exchange rate scenario is that there will be a devaluation. This is an exercise of humility to project exchange rates, because with lower interest rates, the fiscal risk going up, we will have a devaluation scenario and we have to calibrate this. We are predicting 5 reais per dollar by the end of the year, which we reached well before the end of last year. Next year, we should have 5.25. I think the moment we are currently going through shows a very tumultuous scenario from an international point of view. This 5.15 you see on the screen may go back a bit, but trying to look through this cloud at the brought by this international scenario, we tend to devalue end of this year 5, end of next year 5.25 reais per dollar. Now, talking about growth, we have 2.9% growth this year, the same as for last year, 1.8% projected for next year. The chart on the right shows that for the third quarter, we have a GDP contraction of 0.2. In other words, Brazilian GDP will get worse. And the reason is that the first quarter was very much fomented by agribusiness. They have seasonal aspect, first, second quarters. They have major crops, but not so much in the third and fourth quarters. So we don't see that much growth with regard to GDP. Now, these numbers, 2.9 and 1.8, 1.8 is much worse than 2.9. You may say next year is going to be much worse. But this masks the fact that agribusiness is making a lot this year. So within this scenario of ours, which shows that despite next year's GDP being lower than this year, we have industry and services better next year, those two sectors, than this year. Next year, with lower interest rates, industry is very sensitive to interest rates. They will tend to improve services as well. So it's a bit masked that by the agro performance this year, but we see for services and as well, we see an improvement next year. Agro will be normal, agribusiness normal with growth. So that's why we reach 1.8 compared to 2.9. Here, I would like to highlight that this is very important when we talk about GDP in Brazil. We have very reliable indicators. You can't see it that well on this graph, but we have accumulated improvement or worse performance. We saw that there was less trust. There has been less trust in the industry so far. Construction industry trade has gone up, but consumers, we see a big growth here. And consumption has surprised. Why is consumption surprising? If interest rates are right, defaulting by natural persons is low, people's income compromise is high. How can families' consumption be positively surprising? The answer is that the income has grown. Income in Brazil is growing. We have income transfer programs such as Bolsa Família, minimum salary increase. We see a lot of income growth, and this is more important than credit. Credit impacts many other sectors, but income has a high impact. We see a good improvement in consumption. We think it will continue to be good next year. We think it's important for all sectors, for packaging, generally speaking. We expect a positive outcome for consumption. I think the baton will be changed hands. Credit market will improve a bit, not that much, and income will go down a bit, wages. So there is greater dependency of the credit market, on the credit market. And we envision good consumption numbers for next year, figures for next year. In my final slide, data from the last few years and recapping some points we talked about, growth this year 2.9, 1.8 next year. This is not to say that industry and services will be worse next year. It means that agribusiness surprised everyone this year and distorted this year's GDP. We see unemployment rate, something we haven't discussed, but very important for low consumption. We see many people returning to the labor market. In the case of inflation, this year, 4.9% of the IPCA tax. We see a deflation in terms of the consumer prices also growing, the IGPM in Brazil. This is connected to production costs. It's connected to commodities. That's why it's falling. IPCA has to do with sales, income. So when the IPCA, the general and consumer rates, and GPM isn't, it shows profits image recomposure for many sectors. This compensates the disaster that was 2020 and 21 with IGPM rate going up more quickly than IPCA. It foments this idea that our economy is improving. It's not that it grew in leaps and bounds, but it's improving bit by bit. So interest rate 11.5. The central bank may not deliver 11.5 this year. 9%, our 9% next year is more optimistic than the market now, but we understand that it's coherent with what we envision vis-a-vis inflation and trying to see through the stressful atmosphere that's going on in international markets. We see interest rates going down to 1 digit, but not much below 2 digits, about 9%. In the primary result line, we have the fiscal disappointment, 1% deficit this year, 0.8 next year. 0.8 next year is 0% according to the government. But then we have the fiscal disappointment, which increases the country risk together with lower interest rates. This would build a scenario that shows very probable, very likely exchange rate devaluation. It's becoming stronger because of the international context. But I think the most essential point here is that it's very difficult to imagine exchange rates back to 4.7 as we saw in July. There would have to be a new performance in the market, maybe agribusiness with spectacular performance next year, something we are not predicting. There is a very clear trend with interest rates going down and a fiscal disappointment. Now, with regard to the measures announced and disappointed, it's very clear now that we see currency devaluation. I think I'm out of time. I'd like to thank you on behalf of Itaú Bank for inviting me here. Unfortunately, we have no time for Q&A, but I will now give the floor back to Camila, and thank you very much for inviting us to take part in your seminar. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fernando. You juggled, I know, this and that to be here with us, and he has to leave immediately. And now, to continue with the Ibema theme, to talk about the global context, I'd like to invite Júlio, our marketing and strategy administrator. Júlio, you have the floor. I look at the time immediately, so I'm not told off. First of all, thanks and good afternoon to everyone who I couldn't speak to. Let's have a beer afterwards, a cocktail, right? I'm going to start off different. You see how things are. Newton praises the fact that Camila put his picture 10 years younger. I cut my hair and she puts a picture of me older. That's not right, is it? Anyway. Those who were here last year will remember. I'm also annoyed at my boss because last year he started off always the butt of the jokes being my team. Jardel, who suffers here, he's a São Paulo football team supporter. People started off taking the mickey. And I thought I would be congratulated today, but where are the congratulations? But São Paulo football team carries this burden. He will still become a São Paulo supporter one day. My objective here with you is to talk to you about how we see the global market. Last year, we talked about how the numbers were concluded. I'd like to talk a bit this year also about how customer behavior can bring more positive news. I'm usually optimistic. My team says that to me a lot. But we are on the right side of the equation. I'd like to later on connect to what Newton said about Ibema strategy and how we want to bring products and services perception in an aggregate, in terms of aggregate value to you, our clients, distributors, or other parties, right? Our suppliers. I'd like to remind you here, like I do with my team, I show this many times so you remember it well. The cardboard global market, around 54 million tons now. This figure is closing figures for 2022. It's broken down in between 43% of virgin fiber, 57% virgin fiber, and recycled 43%. The main products of the markets in volume terms are WLC, for those who purchase our product, are Impona, for example, and FBB, folding box boards, which are similar products to our GC1, GC2 products, which are more than wide. We've seen important growth based on smaller bases, for example, food services market, which grew a lot with consumer habits changes during the pandemic. Basically, these two markets represent a lot of the world consumer market. We talk in Brazil about 2.5 million tons, so part of this representation here. And here, a bit about the whole scenario, panorama. We have been facing, not just in Brazil, in the world, in Europe, in line with what Fernando said, we see high inflation rates in the US, in Europe. Industrial and economic activity in China are not accelerating, and we miss sight of the fact that our sector, our market, has been continuously growing. We sell very strong. We have come. Our base has grown strongly in the last 2, 3 years, and we have been able to sustain growth based on these larger bases. So we see that growth to 2035 is still at 2%. It increases 15 million tons in the world in apparent cardboard consumption, and somehow we feel the pressure on all links in the chain because every promising growing market is invested in. So you have a capacity entrance effect, not just in our sector, but the industry all over the world, Asia, Europe. We also see great movement by our graphic clients in with regard to equipment in the last 2 years. So it's inevitable that at some point you have an imbalance between supply and demand. We believe that over time this will become equal. In lunch with our foreign clients who operates in Asia, much of the capacity entrance in Asia were motivated by plastic migrating to cardboard, which is not so fast yet as they imagined.
So for a certain time, this issue is going to have some pressure. But the point is that for 2035, virtually 60% of consumption of global paper will be in Asia. And we see that Latin America, China, and the rest of Asia have a bigger percentage of growth than Europe and in the United States. The good thing about it is that the per capita consumption in Brazil and Latin America is much lower than in markets like the United States and Europe. So there's a lot of opportunity in terms of consumption for these numbers to grow. Looking at, okay, wait a minute. Struggling here to change the slides. technical problem.
Tá mudando aqui, mas não está mudando a tela principal. Mudou, agora foi, pronto.
When we look at the Brazilian market, here, this is the number that we follow via IBA. It's not considering LPB, that is the cardboard for the liquid part, but you see that there is an expressive number of tons in 2022 with a forecast growth of 2%, 2023 pretty much in line with the Ibema projection forecast for last year. So, but one thing that I wanted to share with you is that the first 7 months of the year, January to July, in the apparent consumption in Brazil, it's still above what it was last year. So the first 4 months have deaccelerated a little bit, and we believe that because consumption was very strong last semester, last year, it's going to continue be the same. So we have a problem also of capacity, and this balances the demand and offer in the market. But I would also like to bring that we base our future not only on those figures. And then I bring some figures that are interesting for us to see that are pretty much connected to the behavior of the consumers. So this is a research of McKinsey that was conducted with a large group of consumers, asking them if they would accept to pay a little more for a sustainable packaging. And you see that in large population countries like India, Mexico, China, and Brazil, more than 50% of consumers would accept to pay more for a sustainable packaging. And when they asked the consumer who is responsible for fostering this change, basically all of that said that the responsibility of everyone that is here in this event. So the owner of the brand, the company that produces the packages, and consequently us producers. So it's a movement that on top of this research by McKinsey with the name it has, it creates a movement for us to bring more speed to this approach. In another way, there was another research that I wanted to bring to you that was conducted with owners of brands. So 150 companies globally that were questioned. They were questioned what they were doing to bring some more sustainable approach to their packagings. And more than 50% of them mentioned the importance of replacing materials or part of the materials that are based on fiber. So we've been working a lot towards this idea. So I don't know if Fábio from Tucides is here. We try to be a proprietary of those research because it brings an opportunity on how the consumer sees us, but also on how we work, you know, considering myths and facts and bringing the perception to the consumer of the challenges that we face. So they asked the consumers, 58% of them said that cardboard packages are better. 53% mentioned paper as the easiest to recycle. 57% prefer to receive deliveries in paper packages. And then there's another important thing for us to do because the client does not have a perception that the paper packaging protects better the product. You know, only 9% of them said that. So it's a very good opportunity for us. It's considered to be a better packaging to be reused. So we need to bring this perception that paper can also be reused. And they considered a relevant price in their purchasing decision making. And so I like to bring these points to validate the strength of paper, that is the energy. And the segment of paper and pulp, 90% of the production in Brazil is coming from renewable energy. We have all the part regarding management, be it from Suzano on the part of forest, carbon capture, and we joke that it goes inside the packaging to the consumer. And when we separate the impact of recycling only on the part of paper, paper already achieves 97% of recycling rate. You know, when you put magazines and other things, it drops a little bit, but it has already a very high percentage. And this makes us consider that it is a very strong point, because one of the points that we have been discussing globally is to diminish waste, you know, which is the need for a circular economy. So when we get the biggest substract that is most representative one in packaging, which is plastic, we see that 90% of the plastic waste generation is in packaging, in plastic, right? So in Brazil, we have a daily generation of 1.04 kilograms of plastic. It is smaller than in other regions because the per capita consumption is still smaller, but it's still a high percentage. And we also have a movement that is very strong that we have been showing, that are the regulatory marks that Europe started, you know, and I wanted to bring this pretty much happening, showing that this is pretty much happening here in Latin America, because they can accelerate things and bring more opportunities. So just for you to have an idea, the food market, looking at frozen food and ready to eat food, only in Latin America, taking off cup stop and LPB, we have an opportunity of formalization in the paper market of 2.1 tons. You know, so it's a huge single-use opportunity. On top of that, I wanted to bring a little bit about what we have been approaching as an opportunity, as a customer journey, as a customer of choice, because this is the value that we need to deliver. And in this value, we need to convey this perception. So when we talk about products, like we reinforced last year, we have in our Turvo plant a green fiber that has a high rigidity, higher thickness. And we have in that a product called Naturali that is a major bet that we're making. You're going to see, have an opportunity to see that, because there in the beginning of this room, you have the mock-ups with the Naturali product. So it's high rigidity, and it's a product that it's easier to recycle. It is what is very strong in Europe already, and you have been bringing to introduce in the Brazilian market. In Budas Artes plant that we call Planting the Future, we have where we have all the recycling approach and circular economy approach. We carry the Retali Clean, Retali White, that are products that are 70% recycled, so 30% post-consumption, so a product that went to retail and came back, and a product that has been exposed a lot, and it's pretty much aligned with our purpose. Looking at the services pillar, I talked briefly about products because I wanted to bring the service pillar. We are creating our Ibema Conecta umbrella, and we want to put underneath this umbrella all the actions related to services that we create to you clients, and where we can show the effect and the impact that it's having to you. So we had a problem with SAP, so we were without the client portal for some time. We have the sprints to put more information and services in it. We have the PDM, that is the business development manager, which generates relationship with the brand owners, looking for services in the circular economy, product development, and we had a very nice action with the market, putting them sustainable packaging in their shelves, So we always tell our clients that we need to provide to our clients all kinds of information and consumption behavior so that you can advance in your development. And the main points that I wanted to focus on is IBM Imbala, Ibema Imbala, and our NPS, our Net Promoter Score. We conduct our survey, and this methodology measures our level of satisfaction from the point of view of the client and the rate of recommendations that we can have. So this is just to respond to you, everything that we collected in terms of data. So we had 40% of conversion rate. We had 10 pillars evaluated and 56 actions that we're going to distribute as an initiative. So we did not advance more because of the problems we had with SAP, because the portal was on downtime. But our NPS that was at 51 came to a lower zone because, and now we're going to need to have to recover and deliver a better service and a less painful sales approach to you. Together with that, we go to a second step of Ibema Imbala. Last year, we had 120 clients participating, a lot of learnings, over 1 million prizes distributed and trade actions. And now we're going to enhance this program, and we're going to call Ibema Imbala 2.0 and debureaucratize this program. And we are also going to have the pillar of services and experiences. So how do we generate results and help you invest in your business so we become stronger and stronger? And to wrap up, I wanted to share with you some of our products, and I dedicate a specific pillar to those. And it's in the part of services, and it's pretty much connected with our idea of generating value. And we have investing a lot at the Embu das Artes plant to have recycling. And the first thing that I wanted to show you, we talked about a partnership with Green Mine and Green Pack, and our big partner of reverse logistics, that is Rodrigo Mine, that is here with us, that is bringing this retail inside our plant. This is a project that has been conducted in 70 stores. We have already collected 16,000 glasses, and we have an idea of increasing the stores to collect the paper cups in the stores and collect it all and bring it back to the plant, and then we make it into a new cardboard that is going to go to the coffee places of Starbucks as of next year. And the last report that I wanted to show you that is going to make all the chain very proud is with the Grupo Boticário. We started with a project at Embu das Artes, where any physical person, a picker, a collector, they take the paper there, they discard it there, and we pay it immediately with the green picks, the highest value that can be given to that kind of waste in the market. So in this market, we have an intermediary that is the chopper, but this has impacted a lot the society because it has a very high social pillar as well, not only environmental, but also social. So we have another partner that deals with glass, that addresses Boticário as well. So we have collected almost 621 tons of paper, several families impacted, and 336,000 millions in revenues collected. And we made a survey, and we asked some people that how much they had made in money. So a collector had made 8,000 reais a month, only recycling, sending us material to be recycled. So this material is received in our parking lot. We bring it into the plant, and a lot of this have become boticário material of their perfumes and cosmetics later. So I wanted to thank Rodrigo for having made this feasible, and all the partners that have helped to make this feasible. And I hope next year we bring more products to help you. And I would like to give the floor to Camila so that she can continue talking about this.
Gente, para pegar o gancho do que o Júlio comentou com vocês agora, esse ano em 2000.
Continuing what Julio has said, in this year of 2024, we are going to focus a lot on sustainability. And we cannot tell this story by ourselves anymore. So we have a colleague to help us with that. So I'm going to show you a movie so she can introduce herself. The paper. However, I apologize, but there's an echo. We cannot understand what's being said in the video. So we're not going to be able to translate because we're listening to the sound of the video via two different sources. So it's impossible to translate.
Minha sombra de brilho. E o que antes era livre, agora é vazio. Com tantas mudanças e perdas, entendi que era preciso me reinventar, mas não sozinho. Ainda tenho amigos que lutam para reverter e amenizar os impactos ambientais. Entretanto, precisamos da sua ajuda. Ao lado dos meus guardiões e de você, surge uma nova forma para lutarmos juntos. Dos pés à cabeça.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of echo in this sound. It's not coming straight to the booth.
O meu corpo tem o papel de me levar a todos os lugares. Dobraduras e aparas completam
I
aqui.
want to take to everywhere this material, folds and chips. And I also got to know Ibema, which showed us what the meaning of a better world is. Eventually we will be in one place. And you will find this even in the palm of your hand very soon. Nice to meet you. My name is Ana Paras.
Essa é a hora que eu tenho que respirar fundo para não chorar.
This is where I have to breathe deeply and not cry, as Newton said. I really have to breathe deeply. This girl has been drawn for a long time, and now we have held back our anxiety to be able to show her you now. Our agency built this great manifesto for her, beautiful manifesto. They are accompanying this online. So I hope you like her, and she will be very much present with you now. And now, pushing forward this subject of sustainability, now I will call our next speaker. He is an engineer, sanitation and environmental engineer graduate. He's been in design, package design projects, waste combat and recycling. Our sustainability specialist from the Golden Arches, Arcos do Brasil, Brazil division. Now I give you Thiago Duenha. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. How are you doing? First of all, I'd like to thank Ibema for their invitation, Julio's team to be talking to you here about McDonald's, Golden Arches, circular economy, sustainability. We're very happy to be here. So, I don't know if everybody knows a brand called McDonald's, one of the largest brands in the world, largest companies in the world, 67 years in the market, operating in the market. We have a lot of questions about this brand, right? So worldwide, McDonald's serves over 70 million customers per day, over 2 million employees in over 36,000 restaurants, and we operate in over 100 countries throughout the world. When we talk about Golden Arches, people ask, who's McDonald's? Who's Golden Arches? Golden Arches is the greatest franchisee of McDonald's in the world, the largest. Nowadays, Golden Arches act throughout the whole of Latin America and the Caribbean, over 20 countries. Therefore, we are master franchisees for McDonald's of over 16 years and over 2,300 countries, restaurants in this continent with over 90,000 employees. Zooming in on Brazil now, Brazil is the main Golden Arches market. Of 95,000 employees, 60,000 are in Brazil. McDonald's has been in Brazil for 44 years, the brand McDonald's. We serve over 2 million customers per day in over 1,100 restaurants. So out of 2,300 Golden Arches restaurants, 1,100 are inside Brazil, just to give you an idea of the market representation of Golden Arches. And we are all over Brazil, over 200 towns and cities, and we have a very ambitious and gigantic expansion plan in our company. Talking about ESG now, to operate this whole brand and guarantee the company development correlated to sustainable development, the whole ESG strategy in the company is summarized within Golden Arches as the recipe for the future, a series of goals and commitments, transverse, that is, and we divide them into pillars. So there are 6 pillars, 3 for environmental, 3 for social impact. The first pillar is climate change, very much focused on emissions. So we intend to reduce scope 1 and scope 2 emissions connected to the business. 3 has to do with Golden Arches that are indirect or linked to our supply chain. It's interesting. It's funny, actually, because this challenge, when we talk about the supply chain and reduce emissions, it is what has led us to this project with Ibema through BO and everything. A few examples here of how we work with this at Golden Arches. We have an emission factor within the PPR calculation among the employees. All employees are into the theme and seek alternative solutions to reduce these emissions. Golden Arches is currently one of the few companies in Latin America who has a financing strategy connected to sustainable development, connected to emission reductions within the supply chain. So it's our famous sustainability bond. We invest in solar energy. We have 3 solar energy plants, 1 in São Paulo State, 2 in Minas Gerais. 70% of our restaurants are supplied with renewable energy. So that's our climate change pillar. When we talk about sustainable supply, we're talking about the pillar of promoting animal well-being and using ingredients that respect the environment. So here we talk a lot about, this isn't very well known by McDonald's clients, but the origin of the beef. Golden Arches is a reference currently within cattle raising because we are able to monitor 100% of the beef origin that we put on the market, and 99.8% conform to deforestation-free beef, which comes from another major policy with many criteria. We are currently a market reference when we talk about the sustainable cattle raising sustainable policy. Other examples, the coffee we offer has a rainforest certification. Every paper we offer in Golden Arches is certified according to FSC. This guarantees correct forestry management and social environmental respect. Family and well-being pillar is very much community related, family related. This here we talk a lot about promoting more and more options of a balanced menu. So if you have been McDonald's clients for a while, you know that Happy Meal, McLanche Feliz in Brazil, for the last few years we add vegetables, fruits, we remove fat content, sugar content. So we're changing the menu a bit, and it changes. I don't know if you took part in the McDonald's Day this year. There is one next year if you didn't this year. This pillar is very much connected to education and health. So everything we take in, all the money we take in on McDonald's Day, we pass this on to uh, entities that invest in education and the Ronald McDonald Institute. Youth at work. We talk about this because 60% of our employees are under 24. In the world, youths are less and less inserted into the labor market, and Golden Arches as the main first jobs have this within the ESG commitment. So our commitment here is to capacity build up to 2 million youth up to 2025 to enter the job market. We have many partnerships with governments, the Ayrton Senna Institute, Paula Souza Institute. We have a platform called Mac Campus, which has vocational guidance, many platforms, financial education, IT, which are open to the public, and they certify the knowledge for the job market. Diversity and inclusion pillar also is something that Golden Arches has been doing for a while now. 59% of employees are female, 52% consider themselves black or colored. A high percentage of employees consider themselves LGBTQA+. Golden Arches hires PWD, people with intellectual disabilities. This is not very common in the labor market. We have many great stories about that, about how this changes people's lives and their families and everything. So these figures, we usually say that they represent society. I'm very happy to say this. We have a lot of representation within all these numbers within society. Last but not least, our circular economy pillar, which is the topic here today, so to speak, how we work on this in Golden Arches. When we talk about circular economy in Golden Arches, we're talking about waste management and packaging. Our commitment at the Golden Arches is to up to 2025, 100% of our packages be responsible, certified, and environmentally certified, and to be in line with the market, not just in Latin America, but also in line with McDonald's Corporation guidelines. So now, very quickly, talking about circular economy, not just at Golden Arches, but as a whole, it prolongs the life cycle of the material and waste we have in our operations and provides circular solutions. If we have a post-consumption waste, I can connect this residue to my chain, making it an input or a raw material for new byproducts. We have many projects here. All oil generated at restaurants is 100% recycled, turned into biodiesel or cleaning products in over 650 restaurants. The trays you see at our restaurants are made of recyclable plastic. It's a solution, a company called OBQ. They take the waste out of landfills and make this in products, usable products, and we make them into plastic trays. This is not just about residue, but also emissions. Food and compost donations. This is new within Golden Arches. This is a great project not because of sustainability only, but the company as a whole looked at golden arches. We used to look at our waste and we don't see that anymore like that. So all food that has lost commercial value but still has consumption quality, with the conservation and separation process, with a partnership with Invisible Food program, we work with NGOs. In 6 months, in 60, 70 restaurants, we have almost reached 4 tons of food and over 800,000 dishes. So small actions in a small project by a major paradigm change, which has shown an extreme result. And of course, everything that I cannot turn into food becomes organic waste, and I compost it. Recycling is very much linked to the Ibema project we're going to talk about today. So the uniform, which is waste and is unusable, this is converted back to my uniform provider, which has a recycling process. Water reuse is an initiative we have had for many years in many of our restaurants, which is rainwater capture and air-conditioned water capture, and the target is to save around 900 million liters of water up to 2025. Talking about packaging now here, our goal is to have 100% of packaging provenient from renewable cycles, recycled or certified sources. We have, in terms of single-use or disposable plastic, from 2018, we have reduced 10,300 tons of plastic. Our paper material has FSC certification, is FSC certified. Stirrers, straws, 100% paper, and a few simple actions which have great results. If you go to a restaurant today, you will not, when you make your order, you will not have a lid or a restaurant given. If you ask for one, you will be given one. But it's these small actions which have generated enormous package reduction volume. Talking about this project, we're very happy with our partnership with Ibema Biopackaging. I don't know if Felipe is here or Rodrigo from Green Mining are here. Much more than the circular economy project, waste reduction, reverse logistics, I'm very happy to say that the actors are joining for a common cause. I joke when we talk about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. There are many objectives, but the latest one to me is the most important. I don't know if people were saying that we have 16 goals. We need a partnership objective, which it makes no sense to do all this and not join different actors to do this and make this happen. Since last year, with this challenge we've had with the suppliers for McDonald's of providing more sustainable solutions, showing the cyclobon results. With Ibema, we have assembled this and have managed, with green mining, we have made this returnable, reusable material. When Rodrigo spoke here about Starbucks, we see the cups we currently use at McDonald's. We want this is to come back to Ibema as an input or material to make new products that Ibema offers. Obviously, nowadays our goal is to provide a circular package, which we've talked to Ibema at length and with IBO here a lot. We have many challenges. McDonald's is in the foods industry, so recyclable material packaging, the percentage of recyclable material in contact with food, has many sanitary issues that Brazil as a country still needs to evolve a lot on. But it's a great opportunity, and in little time of the project, starting with the restaurant at Embu next to the Ibema plant, one restaurant in May, June, in mid-August, we started to use this in 9 more restaurants, and we see the potential capability of this project. In 2 months, more or less, we've already collected 108,000 cups, and still think that we have 1,090 restaurants to implement this. What is the potential of all this, right? It's a simple project. BO offers us a waste bin to put beside our waste bins, and there's always also a behavior issue here. McDonald's customers take their tray, spill everything into the waste bin, and it's complex to separate, recycle, and compost this. If you put a waste bin here, there is already a behavior about separating this. If we separate this, I take it to my waste department and I connect to green mining, which will collect and join all this and send it to Ibema. So it's a project that last week I was talking to Julio and said to him, we have been involved in a project in Golden Arches about ESG. I commented on the project. When I showed the graph, people already started doing the math. 1,090 restaurants, how much can we reach in such and such a date? So great potential, and there is a lot to expand this and in the next few years with Ibema and other partners. I'd also like to show you here, I don't know if you've seen this, but on August the 30th, here in São Paulo, we launched at the Avenida Paulista, we had a McDonald's with a sustainable concept, like a shop window, a showcase. And one of the initiatives was to when you discarded the cups, we changed the waste bin a bit. Nowadays, customers, it's cool to see this actually. People take their customers and say, this is recyclable, this is food, put it here, put it in the other one. And this waste bin nowadays gives customers the opportunity to responsibly discard the waste. And this is great for our cups recycling project. And it separates leftover food, paper packaging, cups, what can go to recycling, plastic, sachets which were not used, and so on. This restaurant, as well as the reverse logistics initiative for cups, we have 60 more initiatives. There is a development program within Golden Arches where every new restaurant or under refurbishment must be born with 25 initiatives related to water, water economy, recycling, the wood we call CLT, recyclable wood. Most of the structure is recycled plastic. The floors and the wall linings are made with waste, recycling inside, 100% recyclable plastic for the kiosk. Many initiatives, great initiatives. Every organic waste generated in this restaurant is composted at the restaurant itself through an electric compost separator, which generates fertilizer. And then we put this on a vegetable patch we developed at McDonald's. And the idea is to show this to children and young people that we are taking to the restaurant with the sustainable dish project, and thus sustaining the circular the cycle for the food. So I can use these byproducts in a vegetable patch and I can turn this into new food. So you are invited
to go to our restaurant that is on Paulista Avenue, 4 minutes away from Paraíso subway. And they said that if you go there, you can connect to the McDonald's app because it has some exclusive promotions. And here's about our communication platform. And the idea is to bring the revenue of the future to the millions of visitors to our restaurant or clients that visit our restaurant. Well, our approach is to motivate and connect this client to make this consumer to make small efforts, because small changes in our scale will convert to the protection of the environment and benefits for the society as a whole. I would like to thank you for the invitation to be here talking to you. Thank you. We are very fancy, huh? It's very, because we have very great speakers today. Thank you, Thiago. I participated in the first meeting with Thiago at the plant, and I'm very proud to see the result of all this. People, I prepared a wrap up in partnership with a colleague, and I'm going to read and I'm going to try not to cry. And next time I will be out. So today we are together with enthusiasm. Ibema has been highlighted as a protagonist, understanding the importance of taking care of our planet. We make every effort to invest in innovative technologies, renewable energy, and special projects. Focus on reducing the environmental impact. Our commitment goes beyond our evaluations. We work with partners and communities to foster environmental awareness and contribute to a greener future. We are preparing to the future. We are investing in research and development. We are expanding our recycling efforts, and we count on specialists to create even more sustainable solutions. Currently, we can look at the past feeling proud and with hope for the future. We are we want to create a very impactful future for the next generations. I thank you for being part of this sustainability project. Thank you.